Hey guys, it's Aditya again with Inspira Advantage. Thanks so much for joining us on our How to Get into Medical School video series. Today I'm going to be talking to you about study strategies for the MCAT. If you're considering applying to medical school, I'm sure you're aware by now that the MCAT is one of the most important parts of the admissions process. It's the standardized test that every undergraduate student has to take to get into medical school. There are four main topics that the MCAT covers. These include chemistry, biology, psychology and sociology, and critical reasoning skills. Studying for the MCAT can seem like an extremely daunting task. Especially if you're studying during the semester, it can seem nearly impossible with all the classwork and responsibilities that you have to take. So here are a couple tips and study strategies about the MCAT that may help you prepare for this big exam. Before even starting to study for the MCAT, it'll be important for you to come up with a study schedule. That way you can hold yourself accountable and make sure you get through all the material that you need to be prepared for test day. The first thing that I want to point out is that you don't necessarily need to take all the classes required for your pre-med course before taking the MCAT. Though obviously if you're taking these courses, you might be better prepared for some of these sections. If your schedule's in a bind, you don't necessarily have to schedule your exam after these classes are taken in your schedule. The next thing that you'll really need to think about is what time of the year you're going to be taking this exam. Are you going to be taking it at the end of a semester? Are you going to be taking it during the summer? It's going to be really important to plan what your schedule looks like so that you can fit your MCAT studying in a way that's not going to stress you out. When I was going through the process, I decided to take the MCAT at the end of a semester. And so my study strategy was a lot different than my friends who decided to take it in the middle of the summer. If you decide to be like me and study for the MCAT during the semester, I'd advise you to take little chunks at a time. Study a little bit every day and give yourself weekly and monthly goals that you can reasonably reach. I'd consider studying for the MCAT in two phases. In the first phase, you're really just trying to understand the content of the exam and getting comfortable with answering the questions. In this phase, it's probably a better idea to answer questions in an untimed setting. Don't put the added pressure of going into full-length practice tests right away. Get comfortable with the content and really know what you're studying. That is just as important to be familiar with the testing strategy and the format of the test questions as it is to know the content of the MCAT. Therefore, I highly recommend that a large portion of your MCAT studying is dedicated to answering as many questions as you can. The more questions that you're able to answer, the more comfortable you'll be with the format and what the test writers are looking for. Get a question bank as a part of your study materials for the MCAT. In the second phase, the name of the game is stamina and endurance. In this part of studying, you'll be focusing more on taking full-length practice tests. Are you still able to answer questions accurately and comfortably when you're sitting for 2, 3, and even 4 hours at a time? Full-length practice tests are incredibly important during your study strategy. It'll also allow you to figure out how you deal with high-pressure situations and try to come up with strategies and mechanisms to help keep the stress at bay during these exams. For example, during the first few practice tests that you take, you might find yourself running out of time before a section finishes and you still have so many questions to go through. In this situation, how do you best manage your time to try and get the most answers correct and also deal with the stress of potentially not being able to complete the entire section? The more times you put yourself in these situations during practice sessions, the easier you'll be able to deal with these certain situations during the actual test day. Don't be afraid to make mistakes during your MCAT study sessions. I was also a pre-med student once, and I've been there. We're all perfectionists, and we want to be right the first time. But really reviewing the answers that you got wrong is where you'll get the most growth and get the most potential for higher points during the exam. When I was studying for the MCAT, after taking any sort of practice test, I would write down all the different topics that I had gotten wrong, and I would immediately go and study those again in the textbook to make sure that I solidified my understanding of the points that I missed. So to summarize everything that we've just talked about in this video, the MCAT studying, I'd focus on two phases. Phase 1 is about accuracy. Know the content of the exam. Phase 2 is about stamina and endurance. Really get used to sitting for long hours and answering as many questions as you can to make sure that you can answer them without fatiguing yourself on the real exam day. Practice questions are definitely some of the most important parts of your study material for the MCAT. Therefore, I'd highly recommend you get some sort of question bank so that you have enough practice questions to go through. If you're still in school or working a job, figure out when in your schedule you're going to be taking the MCAT and create your study schedule accordingly. Small but consistent steps every single day will be the most effective way to study for the MCAT. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This is Aditya again with Inspira Advantage. We'll be doing an entire video series about how to prepare for medical school applications. This is just one of those videos. I hope you tune in for the rest of them as they come along. Thanks so much.